Good day. This is Matthew Markham, the founder and director of Mentoring Partners of Cincinnati, a high school teen mentoring program where we match each young man or woman with a community adult to build a friendship that inspires their future. And honestly, if I was going to step into your shoes and remember when I was a teenager, if you were to say to me, hey, we have a program that's for mentoring, I would have looked at you and said, program, that sounds lame. And mentoring, what's that? So essentially, it's friendship with purpose. And so I'd love to just share a little bit of my story with you today and talk about how relationships and mentors have shaped me and given me just opportunity in my life that I would not have had otherwise. This is my big family. Ashley, there on the left, we've been married for 18 years. And my son Israel, who's from Ethiopia. Um, Tatiana is actually a sibling that we're raising, and the rest of those kids, um, from the biggest to the smallest, are the rest of our biological kids. But we have essentially nine of us living on a farm, homeschooling. My wife runs a dance studio, and of course, I've been a nurse for a really long time, but more recently, I run this mentoring program. My wife, like I said, is a dancer, and these two oldest daughters as well. Um, Aside from running a dance studio where she gets to impact a lot of young people, every once in a while she gets to go to a cool place like this reformatory where they filmed Shawshank Redemption. And this is the pretty side of the facility. The inside looked more like a prison, which was fairly interesting. This is maybe misleading because it looks like I'm a dancer, but the reality is, every once in a while, my wife invites me into the recital and says, hey, would you like to do a tango? Well, this particular year, a couple years ago, she let me do a swing dance with her. And I would like to say that I did okay. In fact, I'm 40 years old now. This was when I was 38. My guess is I probably can't jump that high safely anymore. So what am I sharing with you? I'm sharing with you what you see on people's social media, what we share in our friend groups. Basically, this is my good room. These are the highlights. That all look pretty, but I would say to you that that's not my whole story. In fact, in most of your relationships, aren't you pretty guarded and wanting to make sure that your relationships are safe before you share more than just, you know, projecting the good things? So let me share a little bit more of my story. This is a picture. If you look in the background, there's some railroad tracks, and we grew up on a tiny little property next to the railroad tracks, and the train was so close it would shake our house every time it would pass, and you just kind of got used to it. This is my sister Pam, my brother Randy, and then myself with the striped shirt. I was the third kid, and we started in a low income community, really struggling with poverty. Went to the trailer park after that, and then finally we were able to get this tiny little house next to the railroad tracks from our family. One of the interesting things about our story is that my sister was not just a sister; she was more like a friend and a mother because my parents both came from poverty and abuse and trauma, and even though they wanted better for their marriage, they really didn't have the example in the relationships that were healthy to show them how to do it right. And so growing up in my parents' home was very unsafe. I had a dad who was just really volatile, really edgy. You just try to perform and not ruffle his feathers, but he would just explode in moments. And when I tried to be emotional around him, I got judged for it. And with my mother, she had so many poor examples that even though she had to be accountable for her own actions, she made a lot of poor decisions in their relationship as well. And so here we are, two people that are just destroying each other, and they've got these kids wrapped up in the whole thing. And it was really like we did our best as kids to support each other, even though both of our parents were a complete mess at that point in time. And I'm thankful that, my parents are doing a little bit better as adults, but certainly very traumatic childhood. And I'm trying to be gentle with the details here. So here's me, um, probably around fifth or sixth grade, and or maybe this is me around fifth or sixth grade. I can't remember. It's been so long. But as you can see, my mom dressed me in the coolest, most fashionable Kmart clothing, and essentially around sixth grade was when I think I came to terms with how broken. my parents' relationship, and everything else in my life was. I didn't have any healthy relationships outside of my siblings, and I certainly couldn't take my anxiety and my issues to my parents because they were unsafe. And so around sixth grade year, um, I had a tiny basement bedroom, and during that year, I really felt like I didn't want to live anymore. And there was a point that year I got pretty close to taking my life, and fortunately, um, didn't complete the act. But what was interesting is um, some point in that time, my sister started taking me on activities with her, and take me on dates with her boyfriend. And eventually, when she got married, I would get to stay at her house, and she took me a lot of different places and spent time with me, and was like really the lifeline of a relationship to give me hope and give me encouragement because my parents weren't capable of doing that. And I would say right around 16 years old, my sister invited me to a church where I found my faith personally, but very importantly, I became a part of a youth group where other teenagers encouraged me, invested in me as friends. We had adult leaders who invested in us as young people, and eventually, as I became an adult, men from from that church offered me jobs doing cabinet making and driving a truck and processing deer. I know that sounds weird, but these men not only offered me jobs, but they also cared about me even though I was coming from a pretty bad mess and I had my own issues. And they saw good in me and wanted to invest in me. And so they weren't just bosses, they were friends. These were men who invited me to their family activities, um, and in a way invited me into their family, which was so powerful in my life at that time. So, what I just shared with you was a piece of my reality room. For you, your reality is your story is entirely unique to you, but essentially what the reality room is, it's beneath the surface. It's the imperfections in our lives. It's the relationships that harm us or that are absent or that are just complicated. It's where bullying, um, insecurity, so many things exist that that in the background are eroding our ability to be healthy and to be whole. And you don't just invite a new friend into the real deep stuff in your life, which I think is why it's so important that in their mentoring program, we make sure that the mentor and the student take their time to build their relationship, their friendship, go out and have fun and get to know each other. And when their relationship is strong enough, is when the mentor and the student will both start talking about the real things that are going on in their lives. Like both of these men or both of these women are imperfect, and they have realities in their life that are hard. And the thing that I got most out of all of the friendship that I've been given over the years is that people would see the reality of who I am, all my imperfections, all my flaws, but yet they would also see the good in me, and they would encourage the good and support me through the bad. And that's what I really hope for the students that come into our program each year, is that they would have that type of relationship that they can trust and really talk about the real things in their life, not just to overcome obstacles, right, but to also get out and inspire their future with that mentor. So let me tell you actually about the mentoring program now that you know a little bit about my story. Here's the problem I saw for me is my game plan for graduation and success for my future was I just want to grow up as fast as possible and get out of this house. To me, that was success, escaping the traumas and the mess that was being a part of that home. And that's not a great plan for success, is it? So the reality was is my parents were given and handed some really tough stuff to work with. And here I was being handed a really tough situation. So how do we stop generation after generation after generation of us repeating the same broken relationships and hardships? And we're kind of stuck on that island, so to speak. And so I love to say that the mentor is a bridge into the community. That your mentor and friend will be the person that you go out and have, just a great time with and explore, what inspires you. For my example, right, it was relationships led me to local businessmen who were a boss, but were also a mentor and a friend. And one of my bosses in particular, even though I wasn't a very good student in grade school or high school, he said, "You seem awfully intelligent for, you know, why don't you consider going to college?" And so I tried some college classes and became a good college student. And that kind of led to me getting my nursing degrees and just finding what inspired me and building that confidence. But it was a boss and a friend that I trusted that nudged me in that direction and believed in me. And then even for my first nursing degree, another mentor walked me into a a nonprofit agency who gave me a grant and invested in me to pay for my schooling. So all these relationships just slowly but surely, day after day, year after year, investing in and building in me into a whole person. So one there's some things I believe about you as a young man and woman that I hope in the future you will believe about yourself. And the first thing is you are worth investing in and deserve a future filled with purpose. You do. I also would want you to be able to commit to a friendship of honesty and encouragement with your mentor, right? You're not just somebody who needs help and they're somebody who can help. No, you're two imperfect people with a lot to give, and these friendships only work out when the real people come to the table and both people invest in each other. I also am big on accountability. Like there are so many external factors in our life, right? Our parents, our siblings, our teachers, our friends. There are so many people that we can look at and say, well, if I had better this or I had better that, we always want to blame the external factors on what's going on in our life. But one thing I've learned about me is that I had to take ownership of of my own actions, and I had to take I don't know, I had to take an assertive perspective on I'm going to find my future no matter what the barriers are. And so if you want to grow as a person, um, you got to be accountable for your own growth. You got to put in the effort. And then the last one says I will make an impact in the life of my mentor by committing time and being authentic. And I know you've heard this before, but what you put into something will determine what you get out. So the more you bring your whole self, your real self to a relationship, and you commit your time to that relationship, eventually you're going to get a lot out of it. But you have to put in the effort and the time. So it's hard to describe to you exactly what a mentoring match looks like. But essentially, when I say mentoring match, what I'm talking about is a parent, the teen, and the mentor. One of the most important things in the mentoring match and in the relationship is that the parent, student, and the mentor all get to know each other on a personal level. It, of course, is the mentor and the student that will be spending most of the focused one on one time together, but it's also important that the parent is an advocate and builds connection to the mentor as well. And essentially, month by month, we have a volunteer coach that meets on a 15 to 30-minute Zoom meeting with the parent, mentor, and the student to help do a little bit of training and encouragement and build that, really glue the relationship together in the months as you build that connection. And so very, very important to know that. And another thing I would say is that the mentoring program runs from about August, early September through May each year. So you basically have 9 months together on a yearly basis to do your activities and your growth together. And we take the summers off just to give everybody a break. So, how do we measure success? Well, to me, the most important thing we are doing is building friendship. The quality of the relationship is the most important thing. But we do want to kind of keep a good eye on, where are you at when you come into the program and how are you growing year by year? And I want the student and the parent to define how they're doing their growth, not us from the outside. And so the five core things that we assess at the beginning of the first year and every year after is, mental health, relational health, academic health, career vision, and beliefs and values. And the cool thing is, as a student learns more about themselves and what's important to them and who they are as a person, they set their own goals for their growth. So, one of the cool things we do in December, after a student takes their December finals, is we provide the Berkman assessment. And basically, it does a really good job after the student spends 40 minutes clicking on bubbles of letting the student see just the amazing and unique attributes, their gifts and abilities, their personality, like get a really good view of like who they are and how they interact with other people. And beyond that, it also will put out a job report of what most likely to least likely will inspire a student for their career. Because I don't want any of you to go into a career just because you're good at the subjects and can get the degree or make really good money. Sure, I want you to get education if you so want it. I want you to make good money to support your family, but what I really want you to do is find out what inspires you, because I want you to spend the 40 plus years of your career bringing the best of yourself and your passion to the workspace. So this is just a quick example of the very top of one of the many pages of the job pathway report. For this particular individual, for whatever reason, construction and management and community and social services was theirs, but any students is going to be very individual to them. It could be healthcare sciences and engineering and that kind of thing. But basically, this is your job pathway report. One of the other things that we do is our mentoring program doesn't do everything, but we do work with local chambers and businesses and educational institutions, and even some community service organizations to make sure that we are introducing students to local education institutions if they're wanting to get some higher education. We introduce them to local businesses if they want to look into internships or shadow somebody to grow. And of course, working with local agencies, we're able to just open up a lot more resources to our students and families. Oh, and here's our Berkman workshop. So after you take your Berkman, we basically have a lady named Lisa who we get together for a workshop, and often we'll eat Chick-fil-A. But the idea is that parents, students, and mentors all attend this workshop. And so this was last year's workshop where all of them attended, and we learned the just amazing things about each student to help us spring into the season of growth together. And after the Berkman workshop, each student with their mentor will look at the job pathways and click on links to have those job pathways described to them. So, say your report said registered nurse and mechanical engineer and veterinary medicine. So, for example, here's Evelyn, who was very interested in veterinary medicine, and so she went and shadowed a veterinarian. So basically, that's what happens after you look at your job path report. You pick your top 2 to 3 career interests that you want to learn more about, and we get you access to cool settings like this. So Evelyn, for hers, she shadowed Dr. Levens at the Cincinnati Zoo, and we've had other students go in there and shadow him, and even vet techs. Because a vet tech is, I think, a bachelor's degree, and a veterinarian is a lot more school. Tommy, he was interested in sports broadcasting, and so we took him to iHeart Radio Studios and got to tour all the different radio stations and the technology and meet some producers. And he also went on with Cedric, his mentor, and they shared their story on the radio about how Cedric and Tommy are both invested in each other as men, and Cedric on the right there is the mentor. Tommy, he was interested in psychology, music, and architecture. And architecture was like the third most likely interest at that point. But after meeting with a psychologist and a music professor, his number 3 option became his greatest passion. And he ended up going into architecture as a major. And what was really cool is the architecture firm that we partner with, that he met the owner and their team, he also offered him an internship if he wanted to do an internship there while he was in college. So Quinn learned a lot about what he didn't want to do and what he did want to do. And one of the things I would tell you about your career, it's such a big part of your life. And even in our first season in the mentoring program, we're not going to figure everything out. And so it's okay to not really know what you want to do after high school. Um, but this first season and in the second season in the program, we just continue to get you out in the field to interact with professionals and their stories so that you can learn about what is a no and circle the yeses and learn even more about the yeses so that you can navigate your path. So at the very end of the year, after 5 months of just friendship, hanging out once a month for 2 to 3 hours, having some communication in between, after the Berkman and after the job shadowing or interviews, you at the end of the year will take everything you learned and you'll write your first imperfect 1 year plan. And basically, you're going to answer questions about relationships and pick another relationship to bring growth to. You're going to look at what you learned in the Berkman and the interviews and from your mentor and set some goals about what you're going to go out into the field and do the next year to learn more about education and career. And you'll even get a chance to talk about your values and your beliefs at the end of the year and set some goals for growth in that as well. And of course, end of year interview and survey. And you will decide as a student, was this relationship and this program such an incredible benefit to my life that I want to commit to another year in the program and in that relationship. One of the things I'd love to just briefly share with you is that my hope is that everybody who comes into our program, not just the student, would get something incredible out of this program. So for most parents, it is often that it's really hard, even if you have a spouse supporting you or you don't. It's really hard to raise teenagers in this day and age. And for parents, they usually get such a benefit out of having another adult step into the life of the teen and be an encouragement to them. For students, you just don't know what you're missing until you have a relationship like this and this type of support in your life. Somebody who stands up for you and stands by your side and believes in you even when you struggle to believe in yourself. And somebody to navigate that path of like, who am I going to be when I grow up? And for mentors, I know for one of our mentors, Cedric, who's in the program, he's got a bunch of small children. And he's like, I'm learning from Tommy, who's a teenager now, like what I need to know so that when my kids become teenagers, I'm ready to help lead them as well. And so he's learning a lot in how to lead as a man as he mentors a teen right now. So students, I hate to put the pressure on you, but as much as I know that the people in your life, want you to have healthy relationships and a bright future, and you may have a parent in your life that really, really would want you to be in the mentoring program, the most important thing is to me is that this be an opportunity that you want for yourself. So these couple questions here. How might a mentor friendship inspire your growth toward adulthood? Do you want to pursue a mentoring relationship this year? If the answer is no, there you go. But if the answer is yes, I tell you, I would be honored to serve your family and to serve you and see what kind of friendship can inspire you in the years ahead. And if you have any questions and want to further look into enrolling into this program, you can reach out to me at matthew@mentoringpartners.org. And certainly you can find more information and videos on our website at mentoringpartners.org. Thank you for spending some time with me today, and I hope to talk to you soon.